Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome aboard the Big Bus Blue Route, our Britannia tour, showcasing the majestic new town and the historic harbour district of Leith. I'm your virtual guide, and we're just setting off from Waterloo Place, right beside the iconic Balmoral Hotel and Edinburgh Waverley Station. As we move away from Waterloo Place, look up to your right and you'll see the stunning heights of Calton Hill. It's often called Edinburgh's Acropolis due to the remarkable collection of Greek-style monuments that crown its summit. You can spot the unfinished National Monument, a memorial to the soldiers and sailors who died in the Napoleonic Wars, deliberately left incomplete due to a lack of funds, earning it the affectionate nickname Edinburgh's Disgrace. Next to it is the elegant Nelson Monument, shaped like an upturned telescope, commemorating Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson. You can climb to the top for a fantastic 360-degree view of the city. The small, round building nearby is the City Observatory, and the dome structure is the Playfair Monument, built in honour of the philosopher Dugald Stewart. Calton Hill is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a must-see for photographers. We are now driving along the border between Edinburgh's old and new towns. Straight ahead is a glimpse of Princes Street, the main thoroughfare that separates the two distinct areas, following the route of a drained lock. The grand buildings on our left are part of the new town, a triumph of Georgian urban planning from the 18th century, a response to the overcrowded conditions of the old town. Think spacious avenues, elegant squares, and classical architecture. One of the new town's most famous sons is right in our view. That towering Gothic spire rising above Princes Street Gardens is the Scott Monument. It's dedicated to Sir Walter Scott, one of Scotland's most famous literary figures. Over 200 feet high, it's one of the largest monuments to a writer in the world. Look out on your right. Just below us is Waverley Station, one of the UK's busiest railway stations, named after Sir Walter Scott's first major novel. The station sits in the valley where the Nor Loch once was, a body of water that once served as both the city's main defence and, sadly, its sewage disposal. When it was drained, it paved the way for the beautiful Princes Street Gardens we enjoy today. The street plan of the new town, designed by James Craig, has a distinctly logical layout compared to the higgledy-piggledy streets of the old town. This contrast is part of why Edinburgh is so unique. We are now slowing down for our next stop, St Andrew Square. This square is named after the patron saint of Scotland and is a lovely green space in the heart of the financial district. It's surrounded by grand banks, high-end shops, and corporate headquarters. In the centre, you'll see the soaring column topped by a statue of Henry Dundas, 1st Viscount Melville, a powerful Scottish politician from the late 18th century. Our next stop is St Andrew Square, stop 2. This is your chance to hop off to explore the square, perhaps do a little shopping, or enjoy the views down George Street. Please ensure you have all your belongings with you if you decide to hop off here. start here in St Andrew Square, a key part of the vision for Edinburgh's new town, designed in the 18th century by the young architect James Craig. Back then, the old town was crowded and becoming less fashionable, so the wealthy elite decided to expand north into this beautiful, gridded Georgian plan. The new town was built during the height of the Scottish Enlightenment, a period of incredible intellectual and scientific output. This square became the fashionable address. Look up at the column in the center, the Melville Monument. It honors Henry Dundas, the first Viscount Melville, a highly influential and controversial political figure in the late 18th century, sometimes nicknamed the uncrowned King of Scotland. And you'll notice the grand neoclassical building on the east side, Dundas House. Though it looks like a magnificent stately home, it was designed for a wealthy landowner, Sir Lawrence Dundas, and quickly became the head office for the Royal Bank of Scotland, cementing this area's role as Edinburgh's financial hub. As we pull out onto North St Andrew Street, note the uniform, elegant architecture. That's the signature of the Georgian new town, part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're heading east now, leaving the grid system behind as we approach what was once a key dividing line between the old and new towns. Now, look around Picardy Place. The area is undergoing a lot of change with new developments, but its name holds a fascinating clue to its past. In the 18th century, this was a collection of cottages for Huguenot linen weavers who had fled religious persecution in the Picardy region of France. They brought their skills and created a little community here, which was known as Picardy Village. A lovely example of Edinburgh's early multicultural history. We are joining the famous Leith Walk now, the main artery connecting the city centre to its port. Historically, this wasn't always a grand road. It owes its existence to a defensive rampart built in 1650 to help defend against Oliver Cromwell's army. Once the threat passed, the rampart became a handy shortcut, a footpath, and its convenience meant it was eventually paved as the main coaching route. Because it was originally a path, the majority of traffic was foot traffic, which is why it became known simply as the Walk, a name that locals still use today. You can imagine the daily scene: merchants, sailors, coaches, and carts all making the busy journey between the capital and the sea. For centuries, Edinburgh's relationship with Leith was complicated. The larger, older city, Edinburgh, essentially owned the port of Leith, controlling its trade and keeping a very tight rein on its taxes and self-governance. The Leithers fought for centuries to gain independence from Edinburgh. Keep that in mind as we drive, because we are traveling into a place that was, for a long time, an entirely separate town with its own proud identity. We're continuing our descent, and you can feel the atmosphere change as we move away from the formality of the new town and towards the vibrant, industrial heart of the port. You're now seeing the historic streets that defined Leith, areas of industry, shipbuilding, and commerce. The water of Leith River runs through this area, and its power was key to Leith's industrial heritage, powering mills and factories. We turn left onto Great Junction Street, which leads us closer to the docks. It was here, in 1833, that Leith was eventually granted the status of an independent municipal borough, finally achieving self-governance and its own town council after many, many years of struggle with Edinburgh. Sadly, this independence was short-lived. In 1920, the boroughs were formally amalgamated, and Leith became part of Greater Edinburgh. Look out for the older buildings and tenements now. Leith has always been a place of contrasts, with the grand houses of the wealthy merchants sitting close to the bustling, often rough-and-ready port areas. It was a true melting pot, a global gateway, with ships arriving from the Baltics, the Low Countries, and beyond, bringing in wine, spices, and exotic goods and exporting coal and wool. And now, we're arriving at the shore. We're right on the mouth of the water of Leith where it flows into the Firth of Forth. This is the oldest, most historic part of the port. Leith's history as an active port dates back to at least the 14th century. It has served as Scotland's premier trading port for over 300 years. Look across the water here. You are standing where monarchs landed. Mary, Queen of Scots, arrived here from France in 1561, and famously, King George IV in 1822, whose visit was orchestrated by Sir Walter Scott. The shore was, and is, the gateway to Scotland. Today, it's known for its stunning conversion of old warehouses into Michelin-starred restaurants, gastropubs, and waterfront apartments, a testament to Leith's resilience and transformation. We are starting right in the cradle of Leith's history, here on the shore where the water of Leith meets the sea. For centuries, this was Scotland's premier trading gateway. Ships from the Low Countries, the Baltics, and France would anchor right where we are sitting, unloading wine, timber, and spices. Look across the river. Many of the buildings you see, now elegant restaurants and flats, were once rough and ready warehouses, taverns, and merchant houses. Right near our starting point is the legendary King's Walk, which has been a pub, a warehouse, and even a royal residence for over 500 years. The original structure was first recorded in the 15th century. This tiny area is steeped in high drama. In 1561, the young Mary, Queen of Scots, landed right here after sailing from France, stepping onto Scottish soil for the first time as Queen. Centuries later, in 1822, King George IV made his celebrated landing on this very quay, an event orchestrated by Sir Walter Scott to boost royal interest in Scotland. As we begin to inch forward towards the turning, notice the changes to the quayside over time. For centuries, everything was dictated by the tides. But as Leith grew, it needed controlled water levels for bigger ships. We are heading towards the area where the great industrial changes began. The old, organic port is giving way to the organized docks. We are now on Commercial Street, and the name tells you everything. This street was built and developed as the port entered its modern industrial era. Leith was a major center for shipbuilding, as well as niche industries that supported global shipping. On your right, you would have seen signs of Leith's famous bonded warehouses, huge buildings used to store vast quantities of imported goods, most famously wine and whiskey. In fact, a major product invented here on Commercial Street in 1868 was Rose's lime juice, specifically created to provide sailors with vitamin C to fight scurvy. Leith's influence reached all the world's oceans. And we have arrived at our destination, the Citadel Youth Centre. This building holds the key to a completely different layer of Leith's past. Its name is no accident. We are on the site of the former Leith Citadel. Traveling along Commercial Street, the great artery of Leith's industrial and mercantile past. All around you, the modern apartment blocks and offices stand on what was once the heart of the docklands. For over 600 years, Leith was one of the UK's most important ports, a hub for shipbuilding, whaling, and the export of whiskey and the import of everything else. Look at the architecture. Even the newest buildings echo the sturdy, functional style of the former bonded warehouses, those massive structures used for storing wine and, later, whiskey. This entire area was once a landscape of cranes, railway lines, and the mighty Henry Robb shipyard, which only closed in 1984, ending over 6 centuries of shipbuilding in Leith. This closure marked a profound end to the area's industrial heritage. As we move west, we are crossing over the lines of the former Old East and Albert docks, some of the first fully enclosed wet docks in Scotland, built in the early 1800s to accommodate ever larger ships. The deep water necessary for modern shipping pushed the docks further and further out to sea, which is exactly where we are heading now. We are now turning onto Ocean Drive, and you can feel the air change. We are right on the reclaimed land that enabled Leith to become a truly deep-water port. This modern road runs through what was the great shipbuilding expanse of the 19th and 20th centuries. The sheer scale of the engineering in this area is immense. The docks were constantly extended and modernized. They even constructed the Imperial Dock in 1904, which, along with its sister docks, was eventually protected by a huge sea lock in 1969, creating the largest enclosed deep-water area in Europe, capable of handling modern cargo and, today, major cruise ships. On your right, you can see the distinctive, modernist architecture that defines this regenerated waterfront. In the 1990s, this entire area was designated for an ambitious urban renewal project. The old, often derelict docklands were transformed into a mixed-use commercial and residential district, attracting new businesses and residents. This development is the newest chapter in Leith's long maritime history, and we arrive at our final stop, Ocean Terminal. This modern retail and leisure centre is the symbolic heart of the new Leith. It was completed in 2001 and is designed to cater to the thousands who come to the docks, not for cargo, but for culture. The main draw here, and a wonderful counterpoint to Leith's rugged history, is the magnificent ship permanently berthed right beside the building, the Royal Yacht Britannia. The yacht served the royal family for 44 years, travelling over 1 million nautical miles before being decommissioned in 1997. Her arrival here in 1998 cemented this area as a major tourist destination, blending the grandeur of royal service with the working-class heritage of Leith. She is the final, grand vessel to dock in this historic port, a floating palace on a waterfront built on centuries of grit and trade.